Alrighty, so this is our team today for this work talk on feelings work and brain drugs, and I feel glad. I was not sure how many people were going to be here, if anybody, and I think there's a lot to talk about, and I think everyone here probably has something different to bring into the space and say, or questions or explorations. So I feel glad that you are all here and we are doing this together. And to start this space, I wanted to say I don't have a lot of answers to questions yet about coming off brain drugs, about the connection to feelings work. I have my own experience, my own discoveries, my own questions and research, but for the most part, this will not be a answers space. More than anything, I want to be in an exploration with you all about the things that you are either struggling with or working with, or whatever your story is around this. So I wanted to put that on the table up front, and as a way to open the space to just go around, have each person, say their name and what you are, either what questions you have about this, or what you are struggling with, or what you are doing here, what your interest in this work talk and just this topic as a whole is. So anybody can start with that, and we'll just make sure everybody has a chance to go. And you don't have to keep your answer to 90 seconds or whatever. If you go on and on, I'll probably say, all right, we're going to move to the next person, but feel free to use this space to really share where you are coming from and what you are exploring.
I'll start, and my name is Dimitra, and I'm here because I have a history with I have a history with some pills. It was some of them they got wrong. Like the doctors gave me pills, and some of them they were wrong, and some of them I was very addicted. And now I don't have pills. I don't take pills anymore. But still, I cannot really deal with my anxiety. That I like it's here even right now, and it's every moment here. And sometimes when I'm still thinking about, to like this magical thing that I used to take, and it was okay. I was okay for some time. So I'm here because, and in the second, so I'm here because I want to be part of this work talk, and I had already some spaces that they even hold space for me, and my heart felt safe to open. And so that's why I'm here. Thank you, David, for the space you opened.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Dimitri.
I can go next. Just want to make sure you can hear me.
Yep, I can hear you.
So my name is Ragi. I'm here because I have also a long history with the pills. I started taking them. I don't remember how long, but the first time I started taking them was for 3 years, and then I knew something didn't feel very right about taking them for me, and so I stopped. I decreased. And 2 years after that, I had another crisis that made me start to take them again for 2 years. until 2019, where I again went into this pattern of wanting to let go of them because of the addiction, because of the costs, because of the secondary effects, because of all the things that were not working for me. And so I stopped, and since then I haven't taken any. I did go in a big crisis since, and this is when I discovered feelings work, and it completely shifted for me because it was another path that I had taken completely, and it opened up many doors, and I did not, until now at least, I did not feel the need to go back to pills. I took pills for depression, antidepressants, and also for anxiety. I still have anxiety from time to time. Yeah, I still have anxiety from time to time. I'm still experimenting with what anxiety is for me now without the pills, how it's linked to feelings work. So it's mostly questions I have without answers. So part of me is here because I'm curious to hear other people's experience and to hear how, like, from where we can go. And I also really want to work with people with feeling. I want to like share feelings work with people, and I know a lot of people that I really care about who do take pills, including some of my family members, my friends, my loved ones, and it's important for me to have this approach and to understand how to navigate this space. Another reason why I'm here is because I've put like a big X on pills for me, where like they're really bad because they have caused me some kind of pain or something, and I kind of want to heal this and just talk about them from a neutral perspective, like without any judgment on them, because I can see how I can judge people who take them still as if I am superior or something. Like I have this pattern that I want to heal also by just talking about it very neutrally.
Mm. Thank you, Raghi.
Thank you.
I had a question about, you said about anxiety. You said you were exploring anxiety, you know, with feelings work. What kind of things are you discovering or have you come across?
So I have this notebook I called anxiety, but I don't have it on me now. I started traveling, so I don't have it. But every time I would read something or someone would share something about fear and anxiety. So the way I'm looking at it is anxiety is some kind of fear, but unconscious or low level, or I'm not sure yet, like my exploration. So I just collected a few information from here and there, and on my book, I don't have it. But what's coming up for me mostly is it's unconscious fear about I don't know what, and it's always there on the low levels, and it's covered with some other feelings or some numbing mechanisms, and it's always like so on the mental level it's always like these very subtle thoughts that I'm not even aware of, or in my energetic body it's more like this kind of like alert mode, constant. Yeah. It does go away sometimes with meditation or some kinds of practices that help, or fear work. I've tried some fear work once or twice. It's kind of, I think I accessed these low levels of fear that were causing the anxiety, but not for so long. And it was like some unknown space for me. Even talking about it doesn't make so much sense right now. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I can go next. My name is Frank. So I live in south of Mexico right now in the nature. And I met Devin, I think two months ago. And I consider myself very lucky that I didn't took any pills for handling with my feelings. I had different strategies to handle my feelings, and doing the Kremlin work right now because he was handling that topic. Yeah, and I'm curious today to see, what's in this area, because I know a lot of friends and family of mine are taking pills, and I'm very interested to hear, well, if there are other ways to do it.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Frank.
My name is Klaus. I live in Germany, and I don't have personal experience with brain drugs, but I know friends of mine are treated with it, and my my question is more how to deal with these with the emotions, and where's the red line between that's a normal emotion or feeling, and when's the point where it needs to be treated somehow. So where's the edge where it turns to being not normal and being in a state where normally psychiatrists or whoever will come in and say, okay, that has to be treated. That's not normal. That's not so where's the standard? At one hand, from the outer position, on the other hand, which of my feelings are too normal or good to deal with, and which of these emotions or feelings are to be treated with medication or with other kinds of drugs, pills, or whatever. So I think that's a point. And in case some person is in a mental state when he's not able to care for himself or to be in a relationship that can be handled by the group or the community or whoever. So how can I deal with that? How can I deal with people I don't have an access to? I cannot get in contact, or so for example, somebody is completely in a childhood state, and there's no way to get an access to his ego, to his adult ego state, to get in contact and to have a conversation with, and at which point, at which moment am I allowed to interfere in his personal world or something like that? So I think these are different levels. So that's on one point it's an internal thing. So what kind of feelings are imminent, and I can look after, and I can say, okay, I can deal with them with all the tools from possibility management or whatever, and which tools are more insane, or which emotions are strange, or so where's the level? And then the other question is how to deal with people who are in a state that's normally treated with brain drugs in our culture, in our civilization.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a little bit. That's no clear question. It's sorry, I cannot give you an yes or no question, but it's
Well, no,
it's
what I gather is that there are a few, like you said, a few different layers. There's your internal layer of what is something like what is. I think the main question I hear is the one you said about where's the line of when can emotions be treated with whatever is in possibility management? Where's the line where someone else should handle it, or where drugs should come into the picture, or something like that? Yeah, I have that question as well. Thank you. I want to start by, well, we've already started, but I want to continue by first saying a lot of these questions are really questions I have. Some of the big ones are I think drugs, I have an opinion that drugs are overall overprescribed, that too many people are taking that basically it's a default for a psychiatrist to say you're feeling something or you're having this experience. We have all these pills, this rainbow of different pills for different ailments. Why not take one? And as far as we know, they're not so harmful. They have a few side effects. You'll be okay though. And so, and even during the pandemic, I mean, I don't have exact numbers, but the numbers have increased and continue to increase in the United States, throughout Europe, of people particularly on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. And then of course, there's this world of children who are being prescribed ADHD medications and whatnot. It's basically, pills have become a way to deal with just about any experience that a person is having that doesn't fall into the category of normal, or I feel good, or I feel fine, or I'm functional. And so this is a question I have, is something like, what else would be possible? What tools would, say, a psychotherapist need to actually create real deep healing for a person, rather than just putting them on a pill? The pill, in a way, is something like saying, at least in my case, it was something like saying there's something wrong with your brain, that you are having these feelings or emotions. There's some chemical imbalance or rupture in your brain, and this pill is meant to fix it. So this is one question I have. Another question that I have, and I'm currently in my own real curiosity about, and Frank just dropped off, so I'll let him back in when he comes in, is people who are on brain drugs and have been for a long time, and I fall into this category, how to come off of brain drugs in a way that is sane and safe and doesn't create a catastrophe in a person's life, and how feelings work can support that process. So this is, I would say this question is my primary research right now, and I'm kind of my own laboratory. And then there's this question that I think Dimitra and Ragi, you brought in, of, okay, being off of drugs completely, it doesn't mean that the things that had me start taking drugs have gone away. And so what to do with anxiety that's still there, or depression that's still there, or whatever. So I want to share a bit about my story, and kind of the pain and questions that the pain, and where this work talk comes from for me. When I was let me see here. I had gone to therapists really all my life as a child. And part of this came from I grew up in a really chaotic household. I grew up in a house where my mother had alcoholism that was sometimes treated and sometimes not so treated. And my parents, like a lot of people in the world, had not gone through a lot of healing work of their own. They had come from extremely traumatic upbringings, which I do not think is so uncommon. And basically, I got into a lot of trouble as a kid. I used drugs and alcohol kind of in my teens. And anyway, throughout my life, I was going to therapists and psychologists to kind of, and the message I kind of got was something like, there's something wrong with you. And this, I think this is, people end up at therapists or psychologists or psychiatrists with this sort of, with this message, is there's something wrong. And going to a psychiatrist, psychotherapist, the idea is to correct whatever is wrong, or to bring a person back to functional, normal, whatever it is, being able to interface with the world in the way that most people can. At some point when I think I was 18 years old, I was talking with my psychiatrist, and for a while he had been talking to me about antidepressants, that he thought maybe they could help whatever I was going through, that we had a bunch of conversations about it, and I had a lot of resistance to it. For whatever reason at the time, I did not want to put something into my body that I might become dependent on. And I did not want to believe the story that I had started to hear, that there was no way that on my own I couldn't basically heal what I was experiencing. I just did not like the idea. And there was one conversation, and in the terminology or the language of possibility management, where looking back, I realized that I basically completely gave my authority and my center, my clarity about what I wanted to my psychiatrist. And he had this conversation with me where he said, look, you're going through all this stuff. This pill will help. And you drink alcohol, don't you? You smoke marijuana, don't you? I said, yes. And he said, well, it's really no different than that. You're just taking this pill, putting it into your body, it changes what's going on with you. But instead of leaving you with a hangover, or instead of basically getting you high, it makes you feel better. And this was the conversation. And just basically after that, I said, okay, I'll try it. And so I can remember those first couple of weeks. A lot of people go through this, particularly with antidepressants, of suddenly taking this drug. And I had not been suicidally depressed before. And in those first few weeks, I was suicidally depressed. I was really, really quite insane. And, the psychiatrists and the literature basically says this is a common side effect of antidepressants, going on to antidepressants. And I spent the next bunch of years continuing to see psychiatrists and psychologists, continuing to have changes in my medication. And basically my experience was that I'd go to see a psychotherapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'd have a conversation with them where I really wouldn't feel anything that was going on. We just kind of talk about what was going on in my life. They might tweak my medication a little bit, there was one experience I had where I went to see a psychiatrist. I had an hour appointment. I was in there for 30 minutes. She asked me some really basic questions about how I was doing, how I was feeling, almost like it was a checklist. And then she said, I told her I'm experiencing a lot of exhaustion. This was maybe 5 or 6 years into taking my antidepressant. And she said, that's a side effect of this antidepressant. And she prescribed me another pill she prescribed me something called Wellbutrin, which she said, this will balance out that side effect. And I kind of started, and I've read stories since this time of people who've gone through this in a far more insane way. But I realized, wow, there's a kind of insanity here of take this pill, it has these side effects, so take this pill, which also has side effects, so take this pill. And anyway, for me, that was a moment of like, what the heck is going on here? This woman talked to me for 30 minutes out of an hour, sent me on my way with a prescription to counteract a side effect. Anyway, my purpose is definitely not to bash psychiatry or these fields, but there is, I encountered a kind of insanity at times in simply attempting to feel better. So
can you repeat the last sentence? I didn't understand the English, David.
yes, for me, I encountered what I would call a kind of insanity.
What does encounter mean?
I came across, or I recognized, or something, a kind of insanity. And meanwhile, for me at the time, it's like I was seeing these psychiatrists, psychologists, etc. And at the time, I was experiencing really some of the worst depression I'd ever experienced. So it was really unclear to me what I was actually getting out of these meetings. And I knew I was really looking for some kind of a healing. So I was also at this time going to 12-step groups, which is, 12-step Alcoholics Anonymous. I was also doing meditation and yoga and really all the stuff to try to figure out what's going on with my brain and what's the right mix of discipline and spiritual practice and writing practice and journaling. What's the right mix just to make it so I can basically function. And when I say function, what I mean is that I would spend at times weeks in bed, and maybe come out of my house for 4 hours at a time to do kind of the bare minimum, or just go to classes in college and then leave immediately and go back home and get into bed. And I want to fast forward ahead in this story a little bit, which is after college, I was still looking for this kind of what can make me feel better. And I had heard about people starting to go see coaches instead of therapists or psychiatrists, starting to see life coaches. And so I checked that out a little bit. And basically through this kind of really long, winding road, I was living in Washington State at the time in the United States, in a city, Seattle. Through this long, winding road, I discovered this group of people, this community of people in the Seattle area who lived in a house together, who were doing what I would later call feelings work together, which was just every day interacting with each other, having processes, really feeling stuff. Up until this point, I had never in any of my therapeutic experience had never really felt something other than kind of accidentally I might cry a few tears, but I had never explored anger or really fear or sadness in a deep, meaningful way. And for me, it was kind of this instant thing of like, my God, this is what I have been really searching for this. I've been really searching for this type of experience where I'm actually feeling stuff. And the healing for me was so clear. It was so the thing I had sought really in medication and meeting with psychologists and psychotherapists it was so clear. And I was really puzzled at the fact that this group of people had come together. They didn't charge any money. They invited anyone to come by and explore the stuff with them. And they were completely on the fringe. The things that I was really angry about, and the question I had is something like, how has it taken me this long to find this type of work? Why is this type of work not more mainstream? Why? And other questions I had were things like, I think one of the fundamental things that is is not so present in at least the culture I grew up in, is simply the practice of listening, of just being with someone else and listening to, finding out who they are and listening to what is going on with them. That I didn't have that experience. And really, when I went to see psychologists and psychotherapists, the thing I mostly experienced was that they actually knew how to listen. They knew how to sit there and just be there and to ask questions and to hear someone. And for me, that was the healing. And I wondered, why don't we all have these tools for just being able to listen to each other? So yeah, I want to kind of start to wrap this story part up, but after a few years of doing feelings work and really discovering so much about myself and getting more clarity and more grounding and all this stuff, I started to come off antidepressants. I met with a doctor and I said, how do I do this? How do I make this journey? And she said, well, you just kind of taper. You take a little less, and then you take a little less, and then you take a little less, and then maybe after 6 months or something, then you completely go off the pills. And so I said, okay, and I tried to do that. And the first time I did that, really quickly, I started to experience what I now believe were just withdrawal symptoms, but things that were really strange, like my these things called brain zaps, where my brain would just kind of go zzz, like that, or I'd start to experience really erratic emotional ups and downs. And the suggestion I got was that I was just experiencing a relapse on depression, and so that I should basically put my medication up again. I said okay to that, and a few years later, I tried to go off medication again. In fact, I got all the way off medication, and that's when things got really weird with withdrawal symptoms. So things that just I had never read about, and to this day have not read about, of my arms and my legs swelling up, not being able to sleep, experiencing weird pains. I was icing my hands every day. I thought I had carpal tunnel or something, and also I was experiencing a kind of hopelessness that in my time, really in all my depression and even before getting on pills, I'd never experienced anything like this. And so basically the moment I started taking pills again, I felt better, and the swelling in my wrists went away. Really, the day after I started taking pills again, I was, what is going on? And then in the last couple of months, which has been a new period of coming off antidepressants, I have done a lot more research from people that are really, it's more anecdotal. So it's not from studies or psychiatrists or anything. It's just from forums online where people are talking about, yeah, the withdrawal symptoms, they're real. It takes a long time. And by long time, I mean years. It really takes years to come off these pills safely without, for some people. For about 50% of people who take antidepressants, it can take this long to come off without symptoms. So this is part of what I'm going through now, is a long-term period of coming off and really using quite a bit of feelings work and tools from possibility management to make it so that this transition is something that's actually doable. And right now I have kind of a 2-year plan. So in terms of, I think more people than are on this call and maybe then have really been acknowledged in possibility management do take antidepressants of some sort. And so for me, part of this research is, okay, a person who wants to come off their antidepressant or other drug and use possibility management, how can they do that in what is needed, basically? What is needed for that to be a useful or a the right pace? What's the right transition pace, and what tools are needed?
Thank you, David, for sharing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I guess, are there any questions about anything I said or anything that sparked or, I don't know, opened up for you just as I was speaking? Or related to what I said or not related to what I said?
Yeah, I'm wondering, there are two different things. I think one thing is a brain chemistry, the balance of of hormones, of everything that's physically in a brain, and what you call feelings work is something different. So how does this feelings work influence your brain chemical, your what's going up and what's going on in the brain while doing these works, so stimulating feelings or whatever. So where is this connection? Where is this? So what is influencing what? Is chemicals are influencing the yeah, feelings, of course, or are the feelings are influencing the chemicals, the chemical balance, or the whatever?
Mm. Can you say more about this question, where it comes from and what, yeah, what,
I think, yeah, so the idea is, so one thing, all the chemical, all the drugs and all this stuff comes from a more, what I would call a material thing. Yeah, I have a pill and I drop it, or I drink alcohol or smoking grass or whatever, and put it into the body as an stimulant, as a stimulation, as a try to balance something that's going on in the brain or in my whole body, in my however how much body is ever. And the other thing is I'm doing something, feelings work. What is it? It's not a material thing, as far as I can see.
mm,
So it's nothing that I put into my body to do something with my chemistry or with my whatever. So what happens while you're doing these feelings works?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good question. Yeah, I think the one thing so one question a question I have is just about the something like, well, I'll say what I experience with feelings work. It's something like, is something like I would call it genuine transformation. It's something like when I go through an emotional healing process, and really I experienced this the very first time that that there was space held for me, that something that had been lodged, really stuck inside me, and for me it was in my throat, but something I had pushed down so much that I had not felt in years and years, that it was finally able to come up and be expressed. And there was information, there was energy, but that it was finally able to come out on the table and be heard. And after that, I no longer had that thing happening in my throat of something, and I've had tons and tons of other emotional things. But I think these things that are, and really emotions in what in possibility management called the emotional body, that they are somehow constricted or lodged or basically halted mid process in different places, and that they all have an impact, or that they are all in some way informed or live also in the brain chemistry. And so I think when something shifts, when something really shifts in the body, that it impacts the brain chemistry, that the brain, whatever the pathways are, the neural pathways in the brain, the network that was responsible for keeping this thing clenched in like that, when the thing becomes unclenched, that those pathways start to shift too. And what I know about also neural networks is that they're like deep grooves in the brain. So it's like a behavior or whatever would be this deep groove that person has gone through thousands of times. So for me, it'd be something like, I have felt sadness in my throat thousands of times, and thousands of times I have done this thing of clenching it down. And so it wouldn't be just one process to shift that behavior, because the groove is so deep. I don't even have to think about it. Do a complete, it's an unconscious competence. But that's where a thing like real practice can come in, that the brain, and by practice I mean repeated behavior in a different direction, that the neural pathway, it may not ever fully go away, but that new neural pathways can be built through repetition and practice, and really changing a behavior. So I'm not trying to answer your question, just sharing how I've conceptualized the connection between brain chemistry and my and the feelings work that I've been exposed to. I don't know, what about Ragi or Dimitri or Frank? How do you work with this question or consider this question?
For me, I'm having a hard time because of this connection between the chemistry and I like the way you framed it, Klaus, like the material part, the chemistry, and the non-material, which is the feelings. I don't have an answer, but the way it works for me is, as you said, like going into my feelings or my emotions and actually feeling them and expressing them. There's information that comes, so they're here for a reason. If I feel sad or if I feel angry or something, it's for a reason. And going into a healing process and finding out why. I don't know how to link it to chemistry, but as you said, it changes the way I see the world, or the way I see myself, or the way I interact with others. So for maybe I'd like to share a bit of my story with pills also, so I can arrive also to where I am right now.
Yeah.
For me, it started just one day. I was having a conversation with like from when I was young. I used to have these ups and downs. So they could last, like an up would be like I feel good, or I'm high, or I don't know. I think I was numb kind of when I was a kid. I'd have these phases where I was numb, and then these phases where I would feel my depression. And these phases could be like 2 months or 3 months or 1 year or 2 years. So I could be good for 2 years, and then suddenly something happens and I feel like this, if I remember quite rightly, was like this pain in my chest, and just the world was overwhelming and sad. And I was just like really exhausted emotionally. and this could also last for 1 week or 1 month or 1 year, sometimes 2 years. And it was just like tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And this happened until I was 20, from ever since I can remember. And then just one night I was having a conversation with a friend, and I said something, and we were talking about topics about consciousness and like very, I would say, topics. And he was a bit fragile and sensitive at the time. And I said, maybe I said a bit too much, and he questioned a bit his reality. Like, I think he went liquid with his possibility management language. And I didn't know how to handle his liquid state. Like, he was questioning his sanity. And when I saw this, I felt pain. I didn't know what it was at the point, but I felt something, and it was really heavy on my chest. And I ended the conversation with him, and he went home. I went home, and I just sat on the couch, and this pain was really, really, really like a lot, very strong. And I just started crying. Maybe for the first time, like as an adult, I started really crying for 10, 15, 20 minutes, just pouring out. And it was like this mix of guilt and shame and fear of making him go like crazy or something. And I didn't know what to do with this emotion. So I went in my parents' room, and I was just crying. They were sleeping. It was late at night. They were sleeping, and I just woke them up while crying, and I just shared what was happening for me. Like, I'm feeling this, and ever since I was a kid, I had these highs and I had these lows. And as you said, like I rebound on what you said, Devin, that many parents they didn't have a healing path, or didn't do any feelings work, or they don't have any knowledge or experience in holding space, at least my parents. And so obviously they did the best. What they did was, like, my mom, she said, my son is crazy. And they just told, okay, tomorrow we go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And this is when it started for me. Like, I had this emotion, and it was not okay, or I'm crazy, or it's wrong. I don't know how to handle it. And actually, I like, the way I see it is like, really, it's like a bowl or something of really hot soup, and they don't know what to do with it. So let's go to the doctor or something. He knows how to handle it. And yeah, so I went, and he just gave me some pills, and I'm gonna like fast forward a little bit, like the experience itself. But now when I look back, and with the emotional healing processes and the things I've learned about feelings work, honestly, if my parents they could hold space for me, I would just express this emotion and get the information from it. Like, it's like I don't know how to say what, like, I could have like skipped or avoided this a lot of time, a lot of energy, like years and years and years of my life in a pattern of taking pills. If just at this moment my parents had awareness about emotions, and had distinctions, and could actually hold space for me to express this emotion on the spot, and not thinking that there's something wrong with me. Because after that I went into like, you're bipolar, you have manic depression, you have so many like labels and words, and I got really confused about who I was and what I am, because this is how modern culture would frame me, you know, like, this is what you are, this is who you are. And just right now, I mean, I feel grateful about all of this, because I've learned a lot, and I want to use like this whole journey as a way to be here for others. But if I really like also go back, and like, if parents, and this is why I'm here also, if parents have these distinctions about emotions, about feelings, and there is nothing wrong, and they can just hold space for their young ones to just express them and get the information. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be avoided. Like, yeah, a lot of, yeah, I feel sad also. this reality. And for fast forward to 2019, when I said that I did not want to stay my whole life taking pills, and I self-prescribed myself, like the coming off of them. Like I made a plan for myself, because I was too afraid to go to some psychiatrist, and they would cause me like more fear than, like, they would try to manipulate me or control me, or like make me feel guilty. I didn't know how to handle this, so I said, I'm just gonna do this on myself. I've done some pretty intense stuff in my life, so I can do this. And I did a 6-month plan of really coming off slowly. So as like I really don't feel the things. I didn't get too much withdrawal symptoms, but I think 3 or 4 months after the last time I took pill, I started feeling again. I guess this is the way I can say, because before that, feeling was still wrong for me. Like if I feel something, it's like, shit, why am I feeling something? What did I do? It's kind of that. It's like the information is you did something wrong. That's why you're feeling. It wasn't like, there was no distinctions about what feeling is it and why and what's the trigger. So it's a lot of time that I wasted on not learning these things. So I started feeling, and it was, now when I look back, it was anger. It was a lot of repressed anger, a lot. And it just came out like sideways on the people around me and myself. And I really didn't know what to do with it. I was really alone. I didn't want to say anything to my parents, because I knew it was going to go back to the loop, going to the doctors. And so I was really lonely, and it went into like suicidal thoughts. I did try to take my life at some point, and this is when everything changed. I don't want to go into too much details, but it was like a wake-up call for me, and I knew I wanted to look for something else. And I'm saying this because something I think is also very important to talk about is, when you said, Devin, as when you give your authority or your center to the doctor. This is something I had to deal with a lot since the last time I stopped my pills, because I was very dedicated to looking for new ways to see what's happening. Why am I feeling these things? And to investigate and research. And every time I think I went to 4 or 5 like new different coaches, psychiatrists, psychologists, and they all were very insisting on me taking pills when I shared my story. And I had to like use my anger now if I use this feeling. I had to really like set boundaries and say no. And it was really hard, because there was a lot of shame coming with it and guilt, because like one doctor, even he was like, but this disease, I have a disease for, it's like trying to find a way to yeah. Yeah, I'm still feeling the anger about all of this. It's still here.
Could you just say it? What you feel angry about?
I just feel angry because in modern culture we give our center away, or authority, to titles. Like, he's a doctor, he's a psychiatrist, he's a psychologist, so you have to believe him, or he has to be right, and I'm so happy. I'm really grateful that I took a stand and I committed to saying no. I will not take pills to 6 different doctors, and it's still hard for me to say that, and I have fear about it because of this huge trust and belief that modern culture gives to titles. And even saying it now, I feel like I'm going against, breaking the rules or going against something. So it's still like a hard thing to navigate for me. And still discovering feeling works has been like super transformative, like in no way as close as what pills have done for me. Like just keeping me like okay, or that was, I think that was very helpful. I would say that it's like when you can't walk, you use, I don't know, crutches.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it can be of help, but I'm angry because it's seen as a solution, and it's not leaving space for other things to be explored. And I think this is where the marriage come, and all these questions about what's the connection, and when is pills necessary, for example. Like, you know, yeah, it's just this, the question you said, Klaus, like when is an emotion not normal, and then this gave me another question, which is what is normal, and how can we like, as all of us together agree on the norms of what is normal, what's not normal. It's a huge topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting what you're saying. It's, how was it before you started to take the pills for you? Did you ever have the impression you cannot handle it and you need something like the pills for a walking stick or whatever? Or was it only because of the, oh yeah, we have a psychiatrist nearby, so let's take some pills?
You mean before the first time I ever took?
The first time you started. So was it helpful for you, or was it more abusive?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think what scares me the most is that I will never have an answer about if it was helpful or not. Because again, if I look back, and this same day, instead of going to the doctor, my parents held space for me, or I went to someone who does feelings work, and they would hold space for me to express this emotion, I think my life would have taken a completely different like path, and I would maybe never need to think about pills. So it's kind of like imagining an alternative reality for myself, which is really scary. But I really don't know if I had the same experience as Devin. Like the first week or 2 weeks, it was worse. Than I was like, what is going on? I stayed in bed, and I mean, from feeling something, I went to like, what's happening? And like panic attacks, and it intensified like 5 or 6 times the what I was feeling. So it didn't really help at the beginning, at least. And then it became just like a normal thing. I'm just taking my pills, like eating or something.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Raju.
You're welcome.
Dimitra, what's happening for you?
Yeah, my emotions coming up, and my mental body, like with the English, sometimes I understand and sometimes I don't understand exactly, and that gives me some confusion, and I'm pissed about that. And yeah, I'm really afraid to show vulnerability and to really show what's going on, because I have still this story that I'm not okay. Like what I can say right now is that I'm not okay. And I decided to stop. I am in a point that I decided to really stop high intensity things right now. And yeah, going to really low levels of feelings. Like this is what I'm practicing right now. But yes, and even I was thinking about to go back to therapy, to have someone but this time, yeah, I was thinking about, I was thinking about to go. Okay, I need 1 minute. I was thinking to go back to therapy, because still after the feeling work, after all these liquid states, I don't trust myself, and I don't trust my choices, and I don't trust my path and my journey, and there is this voice that I'm crazy and it's not okay, and that I am, that something is not okay with me, and it's something very, very deep, that even if I had processes and if I have been to emotions, still it's here.
Mhm.
And yes, and I want to share that from, like, for me, doing feelings work. Yeah, I remember some moments, like the moment that I realized being alone after the expand the box, after the lab, after all this work, like the moment that I really felt that I gave my authority to the doctor. Like I was in a point, really depressed, being suicidal 24/7, and being in a trance mode in my head 24/7. And when I went to the doctor, I said, okay, because my friends couldn't hold space for me. People were coming in my house, I was living alone, and anyway, it was really intense. And when I went to the doctor, I gave him, I said what I'm gonna do, and I gave it to him. Like I realized that I did it. Like I said, take it. And then yes, then the antidepressants, they didn't really help me, because they didn't, I took it only for 6 months or 7, I don't remember, but maybe a little bit more, but they make me look bipolar. So then after I changed a lot of environments, like I was traveling somehow, being in this state, and I went to the doctor because somebody say, okay, because again, there was so many feelings unexpressed and emotions, and being back to the same doctor that he prescribed me the pills after 1 hour, like, right. Yeah. Now I'm really still so mad with him. He said, okay, now maybe you should take some lithium. And I said, okay. And then that was really, yes, it was really a fucked up situation for me. Fucked up, like in the end, after 2 months, I had all the things, like, how is the English word? I don't remember. After what, like this, hyperenergies, the side effects, like I had all the side fucking effects. And I was thinking that I'm so okay, I'm not okay, that it's okay to be so depressed or be so fucked up or don't want it to get up off the sofa. Yes, that's the truth for me. That's my reality. And in the end, the thing somebody told me, maybe you have to stop the pills. And then I wrote the side effects. I read the side effects, and I had the dermatologic side effect. And everywhere here in this area, in the chest area, I had red spots. And then I said, okay, motherfucker, something's really gone. And I remember the moment that I was trying to be logic anyway, and I stopped them. And I want to share in this space that after some feeling, like after my first time with the feeling work, I was really able to call this ring and tell to him, I'm calling you because he was not my doctor, just the guy I saw 3 times in my life. And yeah, I told him, the pills you gave me, it really fucked me up. And I'm really angry because you just gave it to me after 30 minutes. And it's like 4 years later, and they really, affecting my life. And he said, he didn't took the responsibility. He said, yes, not yes. He said, he said something really insulting that I don't remember right now. But then maybe he said, you are the only one that you said something like that. And then I couldn't be more courageous to talk him back. And when I spoke to a friend, like a man, straight man, he said, did you tell him, have you taken them? Have you tried them? And for me, I couldn't even thought about that, to ask him something like that. Yeah, and because even like how I am trained to give the authorities, it's so something really, really deep.
Yeah.
And yeah. Yes, and the other and then yeah, and then the other moment, like I had a shrink since I was 22 to 25 that he never gave me pills, and we having therapy sessions, but he like in possibility management language, he make me a bigger gremlin, and that didn't really work for me. And somehow after all this thing with the other doctor, I returned back to him, and really a mess. I returned back to him really mess. That he was angry at the beginning that this other doctor gave me the pills, but then it was a moment of a really I had this like I couldn't handle my emotions right now moment in his office. Like I was all with emotions, all my emotions was up there. And I said, okay, now how I'm gonna, because my mother came with me in the office, and then she was like, it wasn't really work out. And when she left the office, didn't know how to handle it better. I was in this panic attack that I didn't know how to get out of the office and really be able to trust somebody to hold space for me or to be with me, because even my mother couldn't really hold me that moment. So in that moment that I was so vulnerable, and I remember I was in the chair and I say, how I'm gonna go out of this office, because I didn't have anyone to call and pick me up, or I didn't trust in that moment. He said, okay, now is the time for you to take Xanax. And yes, and then I still remember the moment that I took the Xanax. And it was like, yay. And after some, like, 3 months ago, I had this realization while I was speaking with Gabriel that how, yeah, that moment, that the sadness, I connect with the sadness, that I again, I said, okay, yes, I take the Xanax, and I like a doctor said again to me, like he was a man, he was a man, he was a doctor, and he said, yeah, take this pill, and I said, okay, and yeah. And I did it again. And when I stopped the pills, like really like 2 years, when I decided to, like, I was like on off, and in the end, now I haven't took Xanax for 2 years. Still, like, I am like, my anxiety is still here, and sometimes it's really big, and okay, I'm functional, but I'm not so functional for me. And sometimes I like, okay, I have to make a stop now. Yes, I'm glad that after the feeling work, I can do this, I can speak about these things and speak about without crying, or I mean, not that the crying is bad, but not getting overwhelmed and not keep myself together and share it. And yes, and still I have questions, I have yeah, still yes, I'm really like still I have really suppressed anger and la 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 la, and yes, still okay. I don't know what I want to say.
Could you say what you're feeling right now?
I'm feeling joy that I shared this story without going to melt down or too overwhelming. I feel joy, and yeah, every time I feel joy, then my fear is coming up. Yeah, because I'm not really used to feel joy. Like joy for me is something okay. No, fear comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the depression is like a state of my life. Okay, and I don't remember the question that Klaus, like I really don't get it exactly what was Klaus' question. I don't know if I answered it or no.
You could ask him.
Yes, Klaus, what was the question exactly?
Sorry. I think there were two or three different questions. So what's normal? What feels normal for you? How can you treat it with how can not normal feelings be treated with chemicals or with feelings work? So, and what's let's say what's the connections between these feelings work and the chemicals? So where on one point where's the line? Where's the line? When will feelings are insane? So yeah, so what is that? What is the point? So in your case, or it's still the question, when what for you was a point you decided for yourself that you need something to get out of your current state. So no matter if you could find somebody to hold space or to took some pills or whatever.
Yeah, I want to say thank you. Now thank you. Yeah, because it was the moment that someone, like I had all this like impossibility management context is the four feelings mixed. So I had this breakdown thing. And so it was the moment that I did a Red Club and Aunt Chloe said, okay, Dimitra, you can go crazy. And somehow she spoke to my soul, like, because I wasn't really showing my feelings. I was like this all the time. And then she said, you can go crazy. And then I had this moment that I said, fuck it, now it's the moment. And I start shouting, and I was living in a building, and other neighbors were out asking me if I was okay. And even they were almost calling the police, but it was just the moment that I really let myself out to like, I felt that someone could really wanted to, I don't know if he could hold space for me, but I felt in my soul that, okay, this person really means that she wants to listen to me. And she was a woman. Like now I don't want to go to like, okay, I'm not going there, but yes. So okay, she wants really to see me and to hear me. So that was the moment for me. And after that, after this, I had a shift because, and then, yeah, I had this experience again and again, even in more high intensity in other spaces. But that was the first time that I said, okay, that's so different, because I finally felt I was, yes, like, because my experience is the same, that the therapists, they didn't want me to feel. I only, very well, Raghi said that it only sometimes sadness or mixed, yeah, but so much thinking here. and not.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you for
you.
asking.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I can share a little bit of my story. And maybe this is also answering some of your questions, Klaus. So for me, let's say the first 40 years of my life, I was just numbing my feelings, and I was very good at it. So I could handle all feelings by pressing them down. But as already others have said, you can press it into your unconsciousness, but it will pop up in other places.
Mhm.
And this is what I was noticing. And then I began the search to how to handle feelings. And luckily, I found the working with emotions and feelings first before going to medical stuff. And the first distinction that was kind of changing my mind, changing my world completely, was the distinction between the feelings, so what I'm feeling right now, and what I can use as energy to act in this moment, and the things that the feelings that I stored by pressing them down. So every time I didn't use the feelings, I just pressed them down and I stored them somewhere. And I know I stored them in all places, can be in my bag or in my mind or wherever. And those emotions are stored, and they will come up in moments where they are not appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Can be in a talk with somebody, and suddenly I'm kind of getting overwhelmed by these old emotions. And normally the reaction is, okay, push it back. It's not appropriate right now. Push it down. And so for me, it was kind of mind opening again. The first time when I really could fully consciously express my anger. And this was in my first EDP. And this was for me a very strong experience, because until then I thought, okay, if I express my anger, I will kind of hurt other people, or they will go away, or whatever. And this was the first time where I expressed my anger, and the other person just holds space, and nothing bad happened. And this was the first step for the healing process. And now my worldview is that all the emotions that I stored, they just want to be expressed and kind of received. And after that, they are I think they are gone. This energy is just out. And if it works for me, I can feel that there's a new space in my body.
Mm.
So there's a new space, and then I can kind of go into this space and fill it with my life. So before that, it was kind of blocked, and I couldn't use it, and I used a lot of energy to kind of hold it down. And this energy is my life energy. So I put a lot of life energy into that. And if I can free this, I get a lot of energy back. So this life, and it's very difficult to put it in the words, but it feels like I just get the suppressed life energy back and I can use it now.
Mm.
So every time I can resolve this blockage, I get more energy. I can do more stuff. I'm more conscious. I'm more alive, because before that I was dead.
Mm.
Because trying not to feel is like trying to be dead. And that's what I did. I kind of killed my life. I used all my energy to kill my life. And regarding your question, with the brain drugs. So I'm very interested in all the science about how the brain is functioning and these kind of things. And there's a lot of right now there are a lot of discoveries going on. And my very simplified statement to that is our brain or our body is using a lot of chemicals to regulate our system. And the brain especially uses maybe 100, maybe thousands of drugs to regulate our whole system. And the brain drugs, they are just, for me, they are just like a hammer.
Mm.
So they are just like a hammer that is knocking out one system that is actually regulating your body. And it's kind of going in overload. So, okay, you can't feel any fear now. If you use this pill, you will not be able to access your fear anymore. And for me, the way our society is using the drugs is to get rid of the feelings, because feelings are bad. Yeah, Ragul said, yeah, as you shared. Yeah, if I feel something, I'm kind of weird. I'm strange. It's not feeling is, or being numb. That's the normal.
Mm.
And that's the normal in our society. So if you don't feel anything, that's perfect. That's the normal. Been there, don't want to go back. So I don't want to be normal anymore. Because for me, the feelings or the old emotions that I'm still having in my backpack, yeah, this is just the information that I need to kind of come back to life. So for me, feelings are what I need to live my life fully. So I need the feelings for doing that. And for that, I need to heal all the wounds, all the suppressed feelings that I collected over my life, and I have to take care of them. So that's the healing work. And I just a few weeks ago I discovered the emotional healing processes, and that's for me that's it's a new world. So I just started, and it's opening new doors. And I can get access to my to stored emotions and to feelings, and I know now that whatever comes up, I can handle it. So in my worldview, there is no level of feeling or emotion that is not that I cannot handle myself. So I don't need drugs or doctors or anybody. I know that I can handle it because I know that my body, and I'm sure that everybody of everybody else is capable of handling, feelings and emotions to 100%, and we will not die. So coming back to your question, so for me, there is no border. So there's no line where a feeling is kind of getting overwhelming. So I need help.
Mhm.
And that's only my point of view. And for some, there might be a point where it's better to get some assistance of other people. And this can just be holding space. Yeah, so I think that's it for the moment. So I hope.
Frank,
Mm.
I have a request, since I don't know who will be listening to this or where they'll be coming from, but you mentioned emotional healing processes, which are, at least in the feelings work and possibility management, it's like the main, I'd say it's one of the main ways that we heal emotions. But would you just say a bit about what an emotional healing process is?
Oof, okay, I can try. I'm just
Yeah,
a
and
beginner.
we can help too. We all know.
I'm just a beginner. So in my understanding, it's just it's just one or two people holding space for me. And the quality that is important for me is the kind of non-judgmental. So they do not judge. And this allows me to open up and to really go into the feelings. And they kind of help me to navigate, to go deeper. And for me, it's important not to be pushed, but to be guided. So it's always kind of an invitation to go deeper.
Mm.
And this is for me very important, because if it's done like this, you cannot go too deep. So I will never access something that I cannot handle right now, because there's nobody pushing me. But it still helps me to go deeper, and it helps me to feel the feelings in my body, to really connect to them.
Mm.
And go deeper and kind of overcome all the blockages that I use to kind of numb me down. And the others, they can just tell me, okay, now you swallow. So this is kind of suppressing your feeling right now. And in this work, normally you're going back to, it's interesting. So in my experience, just by getting to the emotion, it brings me back to the moment in time when I experienced it. So it's really interesting. So at some point in place, I'm just in this moment again, and so I can go deeper and kind of see what's the message there. So what is the lesson, kind of, or what did I decide in this moment to kind of rescue myself, and do I want to have a different decision right now? So yeah, I don't know if this was more confusing than than helpful, but that would be my description of the EHP, of my experience of the EHP.
Yeah, thank you. The one thing I would, at least, and you alluded to this earlier, but about the distinction between feelings and emotions, just that feelings are energy and information that's from the present, to be used right now, and that emotions, which are part of the emotional healing process, are not from right now. incomplete feelings that happened in the past, and whatever decisions were made then continue to influence our lives.
Yes, and for me, these are kind of the signposts pointing to where I have to do some healing.
Yeah.
So the emotions are pointing, okay, there's an old wound, so I have to take care of that. This is not healed yet, so I still have to do some work there.
Thank you.
Mm.
Other questions or things people are chewing on right now?
There's something coming up for me, and it's like, even it's not only about feelings work, it's also, for me, it's linked to everything, including shadow work, for example. So when you just feeling something and going to like modern culture normal path, which is going to see a shrink, and it's like, oh, you're feeling something, oh, something's wrong with you, take this, and you take the pill, and you're just cut off from whatever the experience is, or the emotion, if we're going to use this distinction now. And I would say that this not only cuts you off from your feelings, but it cuts you off from a huge path of self-discovery and self-exploration, because emotion is just the first step, and then from this emotion you start to see, oh, okay, I have shadow, like this emotion is coming maybe from, if it's jealousy, okay, and you start exploring more, okay, why am I feeling jealous? It's my ego or my gremlin or my shadow, depending on which language one person chooses. And you're like, oh, so I have a shadow side. Oh, okay. Oh, this is also another. So it's like, it not only stops the feeling, it stops a lot of things also. And yeah, I can. It's huge. I mean, if we explore how much using a pill as a solution for a problem, it kills off a lot of possibilities for a person to expand and explore and grow. And it's like even if we see it as just an experiment and not judge it, just really neutrally, it's like this option of going to a shrink, and this option of being held, like someone holding space for us, that has the person who has tools and who wants us to empower us. In one experiment, you would come out with, I know who I am bipolar, and it's like a disease or something, and you come out of this space, you're like, I know who I am. I have no clue yet, but apparently I have some values, and I'm gonna discover, and it's an adventure. So it's really like, it's it's scary. It's scary.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a totally different context. There's this distinction in possibility management about 2-phase versus 3-phase healing. And 2-phase healing is something like there's normal. There's like the phase that's normal, or I grew up in the United States, and when someone asks you how you're doing, basically you say good. So there's good, which is sort of this like flat line. I'm functional. It's a non-answer, and so there's good. That's kind of phase 1, and then something happens where you're no longer good, and so you go to a psychiatrist, or you start taking a pill, and the goal is to get you back to good. It's basically to return you to the phase where, but 3-phase healing, which I would say is the model or something in feelings work, is that your phase 1 is you're good, and then you have some sort of, which basically means, one way to say it is, you haven't been through any initiation. You haven't experienced anything other than your life. And then at some point, you are no longer good. And the next part is to do some sort of healing process where the goal or the aim is transformation, is to not return you to what you were, because the assumption is that what you were is exactly what created the disease in the first place. So it's something like phase 1, good, phase 2, you go into this initiatory transformational work, and then phase 3 is just a question mark. You have no idea, you're totally something other than what you originally were. And I think this is one of the big differences in terms of what the aim of feelings work is versus the aim of something like pills or psychotherapy, at least as I've experienced it.
So would it mean we could summarize that what's called brain diseases or something like that it all comes from unmixed feelings and can be handled, dealt with feelings work? So, okay, except physical traumas or whatever, traumata. So if there's a brain that's more or less functional, needs no other treatment than emotional healing processes or unmixing feelings or whatever.
For me, other people might have something, I wouldn't necessarily draw that conclusion, but I would be with there's something Ragi brought up, which is there's this moment when there's like a fork in the road where it's go to your parents and it's the only solution they really have is take you to a psychiatrist. And so the question I sit with is, okay, what if feelings work were so common, were so known or something, that was also on the table, that it's like, Ragi, you're crying right now, what's going on? And so this is the question I have. And there's, it's bad, I tell you, with mental illness, what we call mental illness, there's this world of depression and anxiety, and then there's a whole other world of what is often referred to as something like psychosis, where you're really out of your mind crazy, and there are people with bipolar and there are people with schizophrenia, and so I don't pretend to know what happens there, but what I do know is that there has been, I was just reading this a little bit about this research of the main thing with those diseases is medication. You give people medication, starting with there's this drug called Thorazine for schizophrenic people that started back in the 50s. That there's at least one psychiatrist who did something completely different, which was created a group home for people with schizophrenia, had 6 people there at a time, and later created another home, but 6 people there at a time. And his theory was, this is trauma, that what these people are experiencing, it's the result of trauma and abuse and all that stuff. And for whatever reason, this is how, and he even went as far as to say that schizophrenia might be a coping mechanism, what we would call like a survival strategy. And the rates of recovery were higher than, I mean, the study is interesting. I could send out the name of it after this, but the rates of recovery were higher. The number of people on medication were something like 19% of the people ever went on medication. But for me, it's just like, when I think about how psychiatrists and how I view schizophrenia, it's like, of course, medicate this person. And I don't know. I really don't know. I think that has been the solution for so long, that trying other things like people living in a group home and really working with and treating them, maybe the sky is the limit with what feelings work or other kinds of therapy that actually works with emotion, what we call emotional trauma can do. So this is a question that I carry without a real conclusion yet about the truth.
Yeah, I would like to add something to that also. And again, it's for me, it's linked to uh, that everything is connected, kind of. So again, it's the same concept as you start going into your feelings, then you discover that you have a shadow, then you start doing shadow work, and then this from there. So it's like everything is connected. So yeah, it's like there's not one approach to it. That's what I want to say. It's not like feelings work is the only thing that would help, because I think there's a lot of other things that are affecting this so-called brain diseases, or whatever, how we label them. Like maybe from I would like to share a personal example. Maybe it's gonna help me make the point. So it's like I had a psychosis also. It's even really hard to explain what a psychosis is with words, but it was a very intense experience, and it came with insomnia also, like for 10 days. So I didn't sleep for 10 days. I had a psychosis, and somehow, like I know there's a TED talk also. It's called Psychosis or Spiritual Awakening, something like this. And in a way, the psychosis has helped me see some things. But if I look back on it right now, I think the main cause of it is living really in the brain. So there's, for me, the distinctions between the different bodies, I think, is also really helpful, because from what like I see my past, I was really living in the brain, and since feeling was not okay, whenever I felt something, I was doing something wrong. So I would think and would be like, okay, I'm feeling something. And when I say something, I'm really saying something, because I had no distinctions of what this feeling was. Saying, oh, I'm feeling something. I said this and this person said that. So I'm really analyzing. My whole life is analyzing. So this analysis thing is really completely numbing my emotional body and my energetic body, if I think of it, because I'm not sensitive to different energies. I'm just analyzing everything, and I think this was a big factor of going into psychosis, or I would say bipolar. I think also that what they call me bipolar is like these high phases. I think I was really mainly living here. I was really high, just thinking about things and being excited. And then when it was, I think, too much, I would go back into my emotions and just feel this pain for so much and not knowing what to do with it. So I have no answer, because I think every one of us is like a puzzle and we're trying to figure it out. But I think a lot of what we call mental illnesses or diseases come from numbness of the emotional body and the energetic body, because we're really living here all the time and it gets exhausting. So I don't think the brain was made to be operating the whole time. There's something like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I say that now. I think bipolar, I think the distinction of gremlin or shadow, I think it plays a huge part in it, because I can see now that my highs during my bipolar phase, it was really like, yeah, gremlin joy, happiness, excitement, and not really caring, not being present, not being aware of what's happening, just being like, whoa, and I could be like for a year, I could really be like this for a year, and it's like my brain is always like this. I wouldn't sleep. So yeah, I think many distinctions would help, like could come in and make this this bridge or this marriage with the modern culture terms. Yeah, I'm getting really excited right now about this kind of research. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dimitri, can you say what that is?
It's fear. It's fear. I'm scared. I'm scared. And I'm scared, and
You're scared because
I'm scared because I had this moment in the past that I had this crack opening inside, and I got really, really scared, and I was alone. And very recently, in a space, yeah, I'm scared because okay, how can I say it? I'm scared because I'm scared to enter this fear, like still like to, and this is like for me Katipum, like something that blocks me to go to. Sometimes I'm scared to go to this fear because to relive this moment for me is so scary, and I'm scared. And still I haven't, yes, and before I had my episode, or before I have my depression experience, I had friends that they had psychotic episodes, and I was there for them, and I had really helped them I was there for them. And then I was really, I was saying, yes, I remember myself to say no to pills, yes, to express the feeling like, and then I had this experience and so many things changed. And I want to say now, yes, that it's very, very, for my research, like people to hold space for you through this transformational experience. Because it's very important when you do feeling, for me it's very important for me when I did feeling work and I had a supportive network around me and living with and be close to people that they could hold space for this transformation, things work out for me. And then I moved to another space that people that I was living with, I didn't trust them, or they couldn't hold space for my transformation, and things didn't work out. Because it's because like it's super scary. It was super scary for me to go to this feelings work sometimes, and I'm bringing that up because now I have friends. Like I had invited a friend to a rage club that has a psychotic episode in the past, and she couldn't really deal it. She did the intro, but she didn't go forward. And Yes, I'm saying that, like, for me, being in, like, why I'm saying that, I'm scared that mental health issues or people that had experienced this kind of experience, it's required to feel safe. This is like something, and people, and be surrounded by people that they really could not see them as crazy.
Mhm.
Because, like, my friends is from Cyprus, and Cyprus is like the worst country maybe in the European Union, how to treat psychotic
Episode or something.
episode, or people like they're psychotic, like, it's so. Yes, I want to brought up how important it is, like, to know about the box or the circumstances of every country, that the people are there. Because me coming from Greece, it's a huge difference from German people that I have, or Portuguese people, about mental health issues, or even Cyprus, that we speak like the same language, but it's not the same. Like, it's so completely different. Like, so it's very important for, like, from my experience, from my own experience. And yes, and yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I really,
Yeah.
I hear the value to in what you're saying of team, like having an actual team that is, well, that feelings work, and I think just all this stuff just doesn't work so well in isolation, and that having a team, and also in your case having a team of people who are, I don't know, are understanding or compassionate or get what you're going through is valuable.
Yes, and for me, in my case, it's very important, the physical, like my team to be physical, to be around me.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, and my feet. Yeah, okay. No, I'm gonna stop.
Okay.
Next time, into the next work talk.
Okay. Thank you, Dimitra. So we have a few minutes left in this space. Anything else before we start to close out and say goodbye for now? I want to say that I feel really, I feel so glad that this conversation's happening. I've been on pills for so long, and I've been doing feelings work for a little while, maybe, well, 6 years, compared to being on pills for 16 years. Only a little while, and I haven't had so many conversations like this with people. And I noticed there are these like common things that seem important that come up in different stories, like the moment of giving the center away to a therapist, that this sort of fork in the road moment of, do I go this way, or what would have happened if I had not what would have happened if someone had been there who could hold space for me. And then I also am sitting with and I'd like to hear more about this at some point, but just this space that you, Dimitra, are in right now, and your experiment with not doing high intensity work, but doing other sort of lower intensity feelings work. And the question for me is something like, it's just a field of research of what is actually needed for someone with a lot of anxiety, kind of going layer by layer with it. So I feel excited and glad to be hearing about this and exploring it with you.
I want to say that I'm not sure that it works. I'm an experiment. I'm gonna share with you because sometimes I'm so say, hi, I have to go to the lab. I have to go there. And then I say, okay. But then it's like the shadow that, and then I say, okay, like the big, like for me, for example, nature plays super big. Like it's another component. How nature is healing for me and being really close to the ocean, because I'm coming from a city and I didn't having this experience, but being close to nature, how healing could be, and nourishing, the nourishing simultaneously with the emotional work, be close to nature. It's very important for me, because the moment I went to a city back, everything's come up again. And I wanted to say something else. I forgot. Yes, I wanted to make a reference about feelings practitioner work. Like I had, yes, like I don't know if people knows about that. It's happening in Germany, and maybe Devin, you could explain better what is it like. But how feeling practitioner people work, their tools. For example, for me, that was really because they use the low intensity and releasing all traumas, going there really gentle and really soft. Yeah. And I suggest to people to research about it.
Yeah, thank you. I've not done any work myself with the feelings practitioners, but you're not the first person I've heard who's said something about the usefulness of moving at a sort of slower and more thorough, in a way, pace.
Yes, I had some contacts. If you want to text me about them. They are tested.
Okay, yeah, after this I'll send out an email with the recording and also the name of the study that I mentioned, and you can just reply to the email with whatever links you have or whatever resources you want to share.
Great.
So we are at time. Anything else from anybody else before we go?
I want to say that I'm happy to have had this talk. I think it brings me lots of joy to talk about this, just as a way to explore and just hear from other people and see what really, like this question you just said, what is actually needed for someone with anxiety. It's really like, it's not like bashing on pills or saying this is better. It's really actually exploring what is actually needed for someone. And I think I'm very happy to have had this talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate all your stories, all your sharings. It was really, really great. Yeah. Thank you for your openness and for this whole space. It was very, very great. Yeah. With new ideas, with a lot of new questions, but that's how it is. Yeah.
Thanks, Klaus. Yeah.
I want to appreciate. I'm grateful for David opening the space and having this bringing this topic, and I feel glad, and I am really appreciate your honest sharings, David and Ragi, and I'm not saying if I'm saying your name right. And it brought a lot of emotions, but gave me clarity, and I feel really like I enjoy hearing you and be part of and be able to speak about these things. Thank you for the listenings from Open Space too. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty. See you all in another space soon.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Ciao.